Great, everyone. Welcome back to this, actually, the first webinar of the year for the BD School called Business Development Trends for 2025. We have this little tradition at the beginning of the year. We always like to give a little roundup of the main trends that we can expect for business developers in 2025. So without further ado, let's go ahead. For those of you who don't know me yet and probably just saw us online, I'm Lucia. I'm the founder of the BD School, and the BD School is the leading educational platform entirely dedicated to business development. So all we do and all we want to do with the BD School is actually to create the next generation of business development pros using the power of knowledge. And for us, the next generation of business development pros means a generation of workers that actually chooses to be in business development because you love it, you like it, and you want to build a career on that. The way we help business developers is multiple, actually. We do, of course, a lot of content. If you follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, pretty much anywhere, you're going to find a lot of educational content, obviously on our website as well, thebdschool.com. Then we provide courses as well. So if you want to get your certification in business development, for example, you can do it with us on our platform. And finally, we provide one-on-one coaching for those who want a little bit more flexibility, but still a personal approach. All right, these little introductions done, we can go straight ahead on the topics of today, which are the business development trends. All right. There's been a lot happening actually in the world, so it wasn't easy to choose only 5. I wanted to put so many more, but of course, in 1 hour, we cannot do much more than that. So we decided to focus on the top 5 trends. So we're going to talk about that. For each one of them, there's going to be some examples, some statistics, and some ideas on how you could implement these trends in your own business development strategy. At the end of each trend, there's going to be a question for you, which is really thought as a way for you to think about this trend and how you can implement it in your own business development strategy. At the end of the session, about 10 minutes before the end, there is going to be a Q&A session. So if you have questions or anything like that, you can ask them at the time. You can unmute yourself, or if you want, you can just put them in the chat. All right. So what are these trends? First of all, well, I think all of you can expect that. We're going to talk about AI. We really can't escape that. I think last year also when we did the business development trends for 2024, which you can find here on YouTube, AI was definitely the first one. We talked a lot more about generative AI back then. Today we're going to talk about a different type of AI, which is agentic AI. We're going to talk about tribe-led business development. We're going to see in a minute what that means. We're going to talk about the importance of customer experience. Then we're going to talk about co-creation and how you can leverage this trend. And finally, a trend that I particularly like because I'm a millennial, which is Nowstalgia, or the importance of nostalgia for us in business development. All right, let's start with the first one. Now, as mentioned, AI, obviously, it's if we don't know about AI, it means we've been living under a rock pretty much because it's absolutely everywhere. Now, last year, obviously, one of the main tools that was used and one of the biggest things that happened, that was recognized as very important was obviously ChatGPT and then all the other AI tools, right? Now, what we were doing mostly with AI and what it is most of us still do is obviously using generative AI, right? So give it some prompts on the AI and say, hey, create this article, create this LinkedIn post, do this, do that, right? So we were kind of like still in control, right, of that. I mean, we still are, and until the singularity happens, hopefully we still are in control. But AI obviously is evolving, and what is happening is that it's moving now towards something called agentic AI, which, according to Bill Gates, obviously we should trust him if he talks about AI and technology. Agents are basically AIs, but that are able to do and to take decisions before we can even ask them, right? So we can automate a lot of tasks. The AI can do that for us, can create our agenda if we let them to. It can even automate absolutely everything we do in business development. But let's see what are the implications, right, for this agentic AI. Now, first of all, let's look at some numbers. And the first one is that a big majority of executives, so a big majority of people in the business communities are now considering agentic AI as part of their AI transformation. So about 70%, 67% of executives are considering this. Now, I think one thing that is problematic or scary, right, with AI is the fact that if we can automate everything, do we still need business developers? Do we still need sales development reps? Do we still need marketing people? Do we still need content writers? I don't know. I like to think yes, right? I like to think we can still make a difference. And the good news is that only 7% of executives actually think that this use of agentic AI is actually going to decrease the headcount. Basically, I think at least for 93% of the people, you're not going to be fired, right? So that is really a good news for us. However, big majority of the companies now, they say that they're going to focus on upskilling their teams, right? So this for you is the right chance, the right opportunity to really get curious about AI and really see what AI can do for you, how you can use it, how you can automate your tasks, and most important, how you can become proficient with this new technology, right? Because anyway, it's going to be super important in pretty much any line of business. There are some industries that are using it more, but for example, even the agriculture industry, right, which we don't typically associate to AI, there is actually so much development, right? There's someone here in the group actually that knows about that as well. So maybe if you want to give your input in the chat, feel free to do that, right? So it is important that we learn how to use this AI and really what it is that it can do. Because when we're talking about agentic AI, it's really not just about, creating a nice post and so on. But once again, it's really about having a sort of a personal assistant, which is automated, which does everything you tell them to do, and at some point just learns on its own and basically simplifies your life in many different ways. Now, companies are using AI in many different ways. Obviously, customer service is one of the first things that was automated. Personally, I do not like that because every time I try to get someone from customer service, be it like a small company, small startup, up to very big companies like, I don't know, IKEA, for example, it is one of the most frustrating things is to talk to an AI that doesn't understand you and that just keeps repeating you the same things over and over, right? But customer service obviously took a big advantage of this AI. I'm sure it's going to improve. So in the future, we're going to be less and less frustrated with it, with these AIs, right? But obviously, that is part of it, right? And then obviously anything else with the cybersecurity, inventory management, content production, customer relationship management, pretty much anything can be automated and companies are actively doing it. So once again, this should really be an input for you just to get more curious and start learning more about that, really playing around with tools and getting familiar with that because they're going to be more and more present. So what are some things that you can do to integrate this trend in your company, right? And keep in mind, these are just some ideas, some more creative than others, right, that can really help you to leverage this trend. First of all, automating routine tasks, right? So I know that many of us in business development spend a lot of time doing research about the companies, for example, creating these contact lists, doing outreach and so on. All these things can actually be automated. To be fair, these things could be automated also before because there have been a lot of tools now for about 10 years that have been around that can actually help you automate pretty much all of your BD processes. The other thing you can do is actually to use agentic AI for intelligent lead generation. Now, what does it mean, intelligent lead generation? There are some tools out there that basically require from you just your email address, your company email address, and then they're going to find the right person you should reach out to because they think it fits your buyer persona. They're going to write emails and they're going to send emails. One of such tools is called Super Benji. I will not, we didn't write all the tools here because we actually have a library with all the tools. So I will share that link at the end of the session to that. You will see it also here on the screen. So I'm not going to talk about all the tools, but there are a lot of them that actually can help you automate absolutely all the lead generation, but doing it in a smart way, meaning you're not just going to reach out everyone that matches a job description that you're targeted. They're going to look for people that have specific intent, that showed specific signals that might, lead to actually closing a deal and to having a qualified lead. You can also do a more advanced market intelligence, meaning everything related to analyzing your competitors, analyzing your markets, finding opportunities, and so on. All this can be automated. Now, keep in mind, you don't even need to be a genius in the sense that you don't need to become a pro at using AI. This stuff, you can do them already with ChatGPT. For example, if you want to do customer research or competitor analysis on ChatGPT, all you have to do is say, well, this is my company, I do X, Y, Z, and I want to analyze my competitors on how many customers they have, their product line, the customer reviews, and so on. And then you can ask ChatGPT to create a nice table with all of that. So then you just copy it on your spreadsheet and it's done, right? So all these things, you can already do them. They're very easy to do. They really don't require, again, much thinking. But again, as AIs are going to get more sophisticated, we also need to learn, early on, so that when that happens, we can be ready. Obviously, we can personalize our engagement. These, again, there have been tools for a long time that can do that, but the AIs that exist now, potentially, like, they can run without you, right? Which is, again, a double-edged sword, because if, for example, there is a downturn in the economy, and suddenly AI is much better than us at doing our job, then we have a problem, right? So if we want to stay relevant, once again, we need to learn these things. We need to get familiar with this and make sure that we are actually on the edge of these new technologies. And finally, you can also use other tools that help you identify your partners in an autonomous way. There are many tools like that. One that comes to mind is called Super Glue. Again, all you have to do is just to give it some signals, and then it's going to find partners that can match with you. All right. Now, my question for you is, and something you can think about this week is, what is one of your regular BD tasks, right? So one of the things that you do every day that is taking you a lot of time, or that you don't particularly like. I know that I don't particularly like doing cold outreach, so that is one of the things that I like to use AI for, although always with a little bit of margins, right? But just think about what it is, one BD task that you can automate with the AI this week. If you want, you can share it below, or not. It's up to you. But if you want to get some more insights, or maybe brainstorm with the others in this session, feel free to put it in the chat. All right, so trend number one is gone. Again, I think it wasn't too much of a surprise, right? So AI is definitely one of the first ones. Okay, perfect. Then let's move on to the next one, right? So the next trend. Oh, by the way, I forgot. I mentioned this library with all the tools. So if you want, you can just go to this link and you get access to this list. So there is more than 100 different tools with the description and tips on how you can use them. There are the links and so on. And there is also a library with a lot of articles, videos, books, anything else related to BD. So if you want, you can copy this link. Don't worry, I will be sharing them also in the chat. So it's not all lost if you don't find it. All right, I will just wait a few seconds just that everybody hopefully copied that. All right, great. I would say then let's move on to the next trend, which is tribe-led business development. Now, what does it mean, tribe-led? Obviously, tribe-led business development is really all about the importance of having a community that can support your business, right? Now, I've been a huge fan of communities since the very beginning. The BD School actually started as a community that you still find on Facebook, although a little bit dormant at the moment on Facebook. We moved over to WhatsApp. But having a community is definitely one of the things that can help grow your business. But not only that, it's really it's going to be one of the key differentiators, right, for this year, really for companies that really want to thrive in business. Now, what does it mean in terms of numbers? When we're talking about communities, there is really a huge majority of companies that report having an improved customer satisfaction scores if they have a community. Which, if you think about it, it makes sense because a community enables you to have this direct communication with the company. It kind of creates more loyalty towards them. You feel more heard. Sometimes you have feedback. You share your feedback. They're taken into account, so customers are happy when they can feel that they can actually communicate directly with their companies, and that these companies are doing something, to really involve them in the process. And 74% of people are also very happy about having communities, and they say that they're more likely to purchase from a brand that is part of an online community. By the way, all the statistics we're pulling out today, they're from PwC, Deloitte, McKinsey, and so on. We will share everything when we upload the video on YouTube, so you're going to have all the links so you can also read the reports yourself. Now, one company that does this very well, it's Spotify. Now, Spotify is a community where people basically can share ideas, they can chat, they have their support, let's say, a desk, right? So where they can share and help other people. Now, besides the fact that, there are like millions of people that are part of this community, from a business perspective, Spotify actually saving a lot of money on two main things. The first one is support. They don't really need to have customer support, right? Well, they probably do have. Apologies. But they save money on customer support because it's actually their own customers that are helping each other out. On this community, you can ask whatever question, similar to Reddit, right, Quora, and so on. And then it's user-generated content that is basically helping the customers. So already in this sense, they can reduce the cost of customer service. And the other important things in which they're winning is actually in the idea section here, right? What you can do on this platform, you can share whatever idea you have about Spotify, anything. It could be, it would be great to have a playlist based on how I'm dressed today, like a purple playlist. I don't know, probably it exists already, right? So you can share your ideas and you can vote for these ideas as well. Then whatever, of course, whatever Spotify thinks is worth to actually pursue, they're going to pursue it, they're going to turn it into a feature. And again, it's going to help these customers to actually adopt this feature much faster. And there's going to be a lot of enthusiasm around that because it was user generated. Now, this is a great way to involve your customers, but once again, to really build this sense of community, right? So a community which is really based off similar interests, in this case, music, right? Or maybe other interests if, I don't know, they listen to podcasts, right? So super important to have a community can really help you grow. There are other communities out there which I really like. One of them is called Pretty Little Marketers, which is actually, it's amazing. It's actually just a girl from the UK that created it a few years ago. And this community exploded. Like there are thousands of people that are part of this community. And basically all she does is to share marketing tips. Again, amazing considering that it's a one-woman business basically, and it grew really, really fast. Again, there are a few elements that helped her and that helped also Spotify to actually create this feeling of like tribe, right? And really feeling connected and being a community. These elements are, first of all, a sense of identity. Now, a sense of identity usually is given by shared values, shared interest, anything that can help the person, relate to your business. So the first element of really what is a tribe is identity. The second, obviously, is emotional connection, right? All people, right, that are part of a community and, they participate to their events, to their, launches, and, they refer these companies and so on. They do it because fundamentally they have an emotional connection with this brand, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't do that. And this emotional connection can be there for many things, right? Maybe because they really love the mission that this company has. For example, Patagonia, which we all know, right? It's a cloth brand for those of us who don't, really all about the outdoor and so on. Now, Patagonia, what they did recently, actually, so what they do is basically trying to disincentivize people to buy from them. They literally tell you, like, think twice if you need to buy a coat from us, if you need to buy a t-shirt from us. Why is that? Because their mission is super clear and they want to help the environment, right? So they want to reduce pollution and so on. And they don't want you to buy things that you don't need, right? One cool campaign that they launched recently was actually to have this sort of like a camper van, which was going around different cities in which you could bring your old clothes or, like ripped t-shirts and so on. They would fix it for you. And again, this was, besides being a very cool marketing campaign, it was also a way for people to get in touch with people from Patagonia. And again, being connected by this love for the environment and willingness to save the world, right? The other thing is rituals. Now, big communities, well, we shouldn't go into sect or something like that, right? So something weird, but it could be some rituals, right, that you can build, right, for your community. It can be something basic, like, I don't know, Monday or Friday fun day, right? And then you start sharing like memes and you ask your community to share the most embarrassing thing that happened this week, right? It can be something basic, but it should be something that really helps people to, again, having this shared ritual, these shared moments in which, they can connect with one another and really feel part of something bigger than them. And then finally is exclusivity. Now, obviously, communities, big or small, they always exclude someone, right? Because whoever doesn't see themselves with those values, right, with this identity, obviously, is not going to be included to that. But exclusivity can also be, when you create gated community and you have to do a series of steps to enter or these kind of things, then obviously that can add value to your community. Now, again, having a community has a lot of advantages, from cutting costs to obviously lead generation, referrals, brand awareness, and so on. So it's really beneficial and you should take advantage of that. And by the way, this is valid obviously for B2B, B2C, pretty much all sorts of industry lines. I'm pretty sure that all of you attended at least once a business event related to your industry. These are great chances, right, to create this feeling of community with your customers or partners. Now, how can we integrate these trends? So there's some creative ideas you can implement. Now, you could create, for example, tribe-specific events. So you could create like little events with some of your customers, some of your biggest supporters, and so on. You can ask them to share their story with your brand, with other people, and so on. But really, it's really about getting people together that share the same values, and so on. So try to think, if you could organize something like that with your company. Maybe inviting some of your top clients, for example, just for an exclusive event only for them, and so on. I remember a while back, I was working for a company called housinganywhere.com, and we were attending always conferences related to real estate. That was our industry. And one time we went to Vienna for a conference, and I remember we were invited by the organizers in the partner dinner. It was a super exclusive dinner, super fancy, inside the museum, it was amazing, I felt like I was living the dream, And it felt great because it was super small. It was only for us. It was all related to the theme of the conference and so on. But that made us really feel like part of that thing. I still remember, all the people that were sitting next to us were still in touch after many years. So something like that could be a great way to start building this community. Then, one thing you can do is also to, if you can, try to gamify and to make the experience of working with you, being part of your community, more fun. Gamification is one of the other keywords of this last years, but you could create a loyalty program in which, for example, your customers can win points if they refer you to someone, or they win points if they share one of your posts, and so on. And then when they reach a certain amount of points, they win a prize, or maybe they win a badge, something like that. There are some companies that do that. For example, I don't remember now the name of this email newsletter software. I will look for it later. But they have a feature, basically. If you're part of this newsletter, which can be any creator can create this newsletter, if you share the newsletter with a friend, then you get certain points, and then you win, for example, a t-shirt, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of tools that also you can use to really create this loyalty program that can help you make the experience more fun, but also make sure that you incentivize people to be closer to your brand and make sure that they share more, let's say, about you. Then, obviously, you could have just a community platform, I started by saying we did start as a community on Facebook. Over the years, we actually tried many different platforms. It wasn't really easy to find the right one. We settled on WhatsApp, so after we will share the link to that as well if you're not part of that yet. But having a place like physical or online where people can get together, that can really help you out. On our community, for example, every week there is someone asking a question, and then everybody contributes with their experience and really just sharing tips and helping each other out. And I think that's really the biggest benefit of the community, is that really this fact that people are willing to help each other, right? But we need to offer them a place to do that. Otherwise, well, they can't, right? Well, they can talk to their neighbor, to their colleague, but again, the impact you're offering to people to help others is very limited. While you can have more people have an impact if you have a community platform. Then, if you want, you can have an ambassador program that can also be a very fun way to involve more of your customers. Again, you can always start with the ones that are more fun of your brand, right, of your company, and then make sure that they start talking about you with other people. You can give them a series of tasks they can do, and again, a little incentive. And then another idea could be to have a sort of a tribe advisory board. Like you could have some of your best customers, like not so many, right? But a few of them that are part of your board meetings. You can even have one specific board meeting for them. And you use that as a chance to really hear the voice of your customers, right? And really make sure that there are some sort of like representatives of your customers that help you grow your company based on what your customers want. Now, the question for you is, or more than a question, is sort of an assignment, which is join one community that is related to your industry. Could be a LinkedIn group, could be a WhatsApp group, could be a Slack community, right? Just one relevant community, and then try to learn what it is that they do well. What it is that one thing that you could apply to your own company, right? So if you were to create a community with your customers, what it is that you can learn and what are some communities that really inspire you to do that. And when I talk about community, I don't want you to think just about the community related to your industry specifically, right? So obviously I'm happy if you join our BD community, but it's not only about this, right? It's really about finding a community related to a topic that you really, really love and that you feel part of, you know? Funny anecdote. I post regular on LinkedIn. So maybe you saw me. I post pretty much every day. I post anything, experiences, tips and so on. And my posts, they don't do really great. You know, I still keep posting because I think if I can help even just one person that sees it, why not? But my top performing post this month was a post I made on a group called Gilmore Girls Addict. For those of you who know Gilmore Girls, is a TV series from the early 2000s, you know, but I'm really passionate about it. It's one of my comfort shows and so on. And I'm part of many of these communities in which I learned a lot of things, a lot of secrets about this series. And I made a post, you know, someone shared a picture that was, AI generated. I was like, oh my God, look at what I found, you know. I got like 150 likes in like a few hours. Insane. I was like, okay, you know. Now, try to look for communities like this, right? So around the topic that you really love, and then see what it is that they do that makes you stick with them and how you could apply that to your company. So after this assignment, let's move to the next trend. And we're going to talk about customer experience. Now, when it comes to customer experience, obviously, customer experience is always important. I mean, if we don't put your customers at the center of what you do, your customers are not going to stay with you for a very long time, right? So it has always been important. It's, again, nothing really big on that, I would say, except the fact that the expectations of customers have changed. And you guessed it, but AI actually contributed a lot to that, right? Now, with AI, whatever you ask to whatever website, you expect an answer immediately. You want to have an answer, you want to solve your problems in 2 seconds, because if you go on ChatGPT, that's exactly what happens, right? So all these changes with technologies, expectations, and so on, they're actually making it even more important to have a seamless experience for our customers so that they can get, they can have this wow effect at the very beginning. Now, if we do not put our customers in the center, we do have troubles. So first of all, we might lose money in the sense that in some of the research that we found, 86% of the buyers, this was from PwC, they say that they're willing to pay a premium price if they have a great customer experience. And it was about 60, they would pay 16% more for the very same thing if it's done with a great customer experience, right? So imagine a coffee, which is €1, they would be willing to pay €1.16, just, if you offer it with a smile, right? I'm Italian, so the reference to the coffee is mandatory almost. But besides the fact that people are willing to pay more if they have great customer experience, they're also going to leave you relatively fast if they don't find a great experience. Actually, across different countries, so we have like a big majority of people that would leave the company after several experiences, after several bad experiences. But there is a very concerning number, especially in Latin America. I don't know if there is someone here from Latin America, but maybe you can confirm if that is true. But they would leave your company after one bad experience. I'm a little bit in the middle because it depends on what's the experience, right? So if it's a product or a service that I use every day and that I see the value in it, I'm a little bit patient. I try to find a solution with the company, but from the moment I do not see the willingness of the company to help me out, or for example, if I have to have like 5 different email conversations with the software to solve one small problem, I'm going to leave that company because I don't feel heard as a customer. I don't feel they're actually helping me, and I feel they're just taking advantage of me, right? So they just want my money, but they're not willing to help me out. But customer experience is not just customer support, right? Now, in our job as business development pros, very often our job is actually to do lead generation, finding new opportunities, and so on. Now, if we don't provide a great customer experience already from the beginning, in this case, right? So, for example, if we're sending these emails, which are, let's say, irrelevant, where we say things that could annoy a little bit our customers and so on, that is not a good first impression, right? So the customer experience we're offering is not good. Or let's say your customer says, look, I really want to get your product, but this price is really too high because I already have this other software I have to switch, like, could you offer me a little discount? If you say no just because, well, that's not going to be a great customer experience, right? You could say, well, look, I really cannot give you discount, but I can add this extra thing for you, right? Again, you're helping the customer to help you at the end, right? Because if you're a little bit nicer, if you can offer a good customer experience, then you also get the reward, which is their money, right? So they're going to become your customers. Now, what can we do? How can we integrate these trends? So how can we be more customer oriented and really trying to offer them the best customer experience we can from our perspective of business development pros? Now, the first thing we need to do is actually to audit our process, regardless, just not only the part where we actually talk to our customers, but really all our processes to make sure that there is no friction from the customer side, right? So for example, if you work for a company that has a lot of inbound leads, so people find your website and then they can get in touch with you, they can buy your products, they can book a call with you and so on. Now, if they go on your website and then they're wasting, let's say, 10 minutes just scrolling down, trying to see, where is the button to book a call, they're going to get frustrated, they're going to leave. If they have to apply for something and they have to answer 50 questions and then they have to do something else, then they have to put the credit card details and so on and so forth, that's creating a lot of friction. And not only is creating a lot of friction, but most likely one of your competitors is making it a lot easier for people to become their customers. And that's why you're losing to them. So make sure that you have a critical look at your process and then you try to simplify it as much as you can to avoid friction towards your customer. The same, streamline the decision-making process, right? So if you're doing a type of BD which is more sales-oriented, for example, and you're really talking to, you're doing lead generation and so on, someone comes, say, okay, great, I want to become your customer. It shouldn't be the case that you first have to ask for permission, then you have to create a contract, then you have to send the first draft of the contract, then you get it back, and then you do this, and then you do that. It's too complicated, right? So the decision-making process should be simplified. And this, again, is the same internally. So for example, if you do a type of BD, which is more related to sales operations or finding internal opportunities, internal communication, and so on, the same, try to streamline your decision-making process so that you make it easier for people to work with you, basically, right? And again, if you go back to the first trend, you can pretty much do this with AI. For example, with contracts, there are so many tools that can create contracts. They can, it's sent automatically. It sends reminders automatically. They can help, like the customer sign digitally in 2 seconds, so you don't need to send like a Word documents and then they have to download it and so on. Like you understand the gist of it. Then, personalize, obviously, I'm a huge fan of personalization. At the end of the day, all what we do at the BD School is personalized. I find it really important. It is one of the customer expectations. They want personalization, but the personalization should not overwhelm your customer, meaning there should not be too much personalization, right? And there are some topics, obviously, that are off topic, something that is too personal, you should not mention it to that. But not only that, nowadays with AI, although there is a lot of enthusiasm, right, about that and so on, because, well, I think many people are realizing that can really simplify our process. Like it can save us a lot of time, right, that we can use somewhere else. But there are growing concerns about the, how do you say, the privacy, for example, right? So it is important that even if you use AIs and so on, you should use them with moderation so that when you personalize, you don't overwhelm the customers. Like, wait a minute, oh my God, like I ended up in a sort of like a phishing email. That's it, they're going to steal all my money, something like that, right? That's not what we want our customers to have. Make it easy to say yes, very similar to streamline this decision-making process, but make sure that when you're talking to potential customers or partners, you remove friction, right? So that you are, that you kind of meet your customers and partners midway so that it's easier for them to work with you. And then finally, use tools. Again, I'm a huge fan. I use a lot of tools now, especially AI tools for pretty much any business process. But don't overwhelm yourself with these tools because actually it's just going to create even more friction. It's going to create too many middle processes, too many steps in your process, which can also reflect on the customer facing side of your role. So just select a few tools that really can help you streamline your process, that can help you save time and focus on the important things, but don't overwhelm yourself with that. So, question for you is, what is one area or, one little thing about your current business development strategy that you could simplify today? So is there something, for example, that every time you struggle with your manager or you struggle with because it's complicated, because it takes too much time, or because you realize that it makes you lose deals, right? So partners and clients don't want to work with you because of that little or maybe big thing that you're doing that maybe could be simplified. Think about that. And then once again, if you want, you can share with us down below. All right. Number 4, trend number 4, co-creation with this very nice picture of Coca-Cola and Oreo, which was I think one of the limited edition things that they did last year. I still have a can somewhere here because my husband is a huge fan of Coca-Cola and he likes to collect things. So we are not allowed to drink that. I do not know how this tastes, but I do have a can in my fridge, right? Now, this is a great example of how two things absolutely not related, they got together to create something somewhat iconic, right? So I don't think anybody has ever thought before, maybe, yes, probably some other companies also thought of doing a mix of like cookies and a drink. I don't know. To me, this does not seem a good idea, but again, maybe one day I will try it, right? Now, some stats about co-creation. When we're talking about co-creation, and again, this is valid for B2B and B2C. In this specific case, I pulled out statistics for B2B. Now, 71% of B2B buyers say that they prefer companies that involve them in the co-creation of products or features or simply in product decisions. Now, one example of this is Unilever. Unilever, they have this site, it's called Unilever Hive. And if you go on the Unilever Hive, you can actually submit your ideas. Now, I don't know you, but I always have like, when, I'm looking at stuff, I don't know, I'm looking for new curtains or these kind of things, I go on the website, then something doesn't work. And besides getting frustrated, but most of the time I'm positive. I'm like, oh, I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to tell them that this thing doesn't work and then maybe they should do it this way, and so on. Most of the times I don't do it because I don't want to go through the hassle, of having to send an email and so on, like it's too much. While if I would have a website like this one, I could just submit my ideas, Unilever looks at them, and maybe I see one of my genius ideas becoming a product on the shelves of all the shops in the Netherlands, right? So it is great because it really makes your customers love your brand because they are part of it. So it is something that, again, I invite you to consider. Now, besides the fact that your customers feel a lot more involved in the decision-making process, you also create a lot more innovation because at the end of the day, your team, you can have the best team in your company, but you're still a limited amount of people, right? While there's thousands of people out there that might have the genius idea that can create, the new generation innovation, the new AI, right? Now, Unilever is one of them, but there are so many other examples. Well, there is Heineken, some are whole Dutch companies I'm mentioning today's because I'm based in the Netherlands, maybe that's why. So how can you do that? Oh yeah, there is also another one which is very cool, so maybe you can check it out, but there is one tool called Apollo.io, which is a sales acceleration platform. I'm not sure if they still have it, but a few years ago, they actually had a Trello board with their product roadmap, and you can leave suggestions and feedback on that so that when they would build these features, they would take into account also your ideas. So again, very simple. You create the Trello board and you just ask people to submit their ideas. Why not? So how can we integrate these trends? So we can create or host co-creation workshops. Something very simple. You invite a few of your clients, again, some of the best clients, the ones that leave you the best reviews, the ones that are happiest to talk with you, and so on. And you create these workshops where you actively tackle a challenge, a problem, and say, okay, we need to solve this problem. How do we do it? A little bit like a hackathon, right? But applied to business development. You can also do an innovation challenge. Now, similar to the Unilever Hive, they also have another website which is for open innovation. And oftentimes on there, you find calls for challenges. So they say, hey, we have this business problem, we're looking for a solution. And then you can participate in the challenge, submit your solution, and then maybe win it, maybe not. But in the process, you do a nice thought process that can help you become better at your work, right, as well. You can also do content and education together with your customers. Now, besides obviously the testimonial videos, these kind of things, right? But you can also just directly ask to your customers, hey, what is the problem that you're facing now? Can you explain me more in depth? How would you like to solve it and so on? And you collaborate together on creating this content, which again, is going to help the customer to feel closer to you, but in return, it's going to help all the other customers that maybe face the same challenge, right? And they can, find value in your content. Again, you can apply it in different contexts, right? But this with the customer could be one. Obviously, strategic partnerships, right? Just like Coca-Cola and Oreo, but there's so many other examples of this in the business world. There was Nike with, I think it was Fit Me. Then there was, they created, a watch that was attached to the app of Nike so that you could basically combine these two products. Obviously, Coca-Cola is always there. Coca-Cola and McDonald's, right? They're partners forever and ever, right? So strategic partnerships can be a very nice way to co-create. And on top of that, it also reduces a lot of risks associated to launching new initiatives. And then finally, one thing you can do is to launch industry think tanks. There is an example here in the Netherlands. Let's say the EdTech think tank is called Dutch EdTech, but the Dutch EdTech was actually initiated or promoted by one of the most famous, let's say, Dutch tech companies, which was called Growth Tribe. They were really the initiators of that, and then the Dutch tech became, a thing on its own. But by doing that, Growth Tribe really put themselves in the center of this movement. They were the ones, that brought us all together. So all the actors in the edtech space in the Netherlands, they were brought together by this organization. So think if you can do something like that, right? Now, all these things, they might seem like super complicated and so on, but I really encourage you to just think like super simple terms. Like if you want to do a workshop, just invite 5 clients to your office, offer them lunch and do this together, right? You always have time to make it more complex and complicated in the future. Now, the question for you is, think about one of your best clients that you could go to and ask for feedback. And the feedback should be something like, hey, like your customer now, you're a client for a very long time, you know everything about us, what would you do differently? What would you do better? Is there something that we're missing, right? And then trying to really get them to suggest ideas and help you out, right? So again, think about one of your best clients and just go for it. Ask them for some feedback, ideas, and help you out. All right, now last trend, and then we go to the Q&A session, is Nowstalgia. Now, this has been there for a while as well, and I put it here because I particularly like it. Again, I'm a millennial, and you guessed it, but millennials and very strangely Gen Zers are actually bringing this movement. Now, there are a few things that help that. For example, TikTok, Instagram, and so on. Now, you find a lot of content which is very nostalgic, or maybe I see it because I follow them, so then I see more of them, obviously. But very funnily, besides the millennials, the Gen Zers have this nostalgia for the 90s, which is strange because they did not live in the 90s, right? So it's weird that they like it so much, but it was the best time, so they're right. So 81% of young consumers, which includes Gen Zers and millennials mostly, they say that they like it when companies, when brands bring back products and trends from their childhood. I mentioned before Gilmore Girls, but there are a lot of things, right? Now, one of my first phones was the Nokia 3310. The Nokia remade the 3310 a couple of years ago, right? I did not buy that. I bought the old one. So I do have an old Nokia 3310, which kind of suits me and comforts me, when I don't feel very great. Another phone was this one, so the Razr. I did that one too. I had it black, but Paris Hilton was very famous in the early 2000s for having this specific phone. It was like sort of an iconic duo. So what did Motorola did just last year? They created a new model, a new Razr, and they asked Paris Hilton to do some campaigns with them. Again, bringing back this feeling of nostalgia, right? So she was like always with her phone, like was really like sort of an icon. And last year they brought her back again to promote her, But again, if you just look on Instagram, but also, if you just look at, I hope there are other millennials like me here, that really like to think back about the past, it was simpler terms, it was comforting, it's nice, it's like everything was simpler, there wasn't all the bad things happening, or maybe yes, but we were younger, so we didn't care that much, right? So this is a very powerful feeling that companies are constantly exploiting now. So they're bringing back so many things from our childhood, because people are very emotional about that. And again, if you want people to get closer to your brand, you need to make it more emotional. You need to focus on the emotions that you can generate for them. And using nostalgic elements can really help you to do that. Another thing that came back to really I really did not expect that was Hello Kitty, because this Hello Kitty, I don't know, I never particularly liked this Hello Kitty. And then my niece just, for Christmas, she asked me a Hello Kitty lamp. And I was like, where am I going to find a Hello Kitty lamp? I don't think they even produce them anymore, but they do. And I found it in 2 seconds. So that's another one of these icons from the childhood that are coming back. Now, how can we integrate this trend? Again, considering also the many of you work on a B2B side. So you could create, if you go to events, for example, you could create some merchandise, which is a little bit nostalgic, right? I don't know, you could think of keychains, but the keychains could have I don't know, a little Tamagotchi, right? Which we loved a lot when we were kids. Or anything, obviously needs to be based on your buyer persona, right? So if you target more, let's say, older generations, Gen Zers, millennials, right? You need to make it relevant for them. So you need to talk about things of their childhood, right? Of their youth. In particular, you should focus on movies, music, and so on. These are things that really move the emotions, that can really, make people softer, right? So when you reference that. You could create content like the evolution of your company, right? And then you talk about how your brand evolved, how it was in the past, and so on. IBM did a similar campaign a few years ago for their 100 years. Microsoft did something similar in 2013 as well. It was like kids of the 90s. So they created these videos which were really like nostalgic on the 90s and so on. So you could create content like that. Then you can just like, in your content, in your emails and so on, you can have pop culture throwbacks, like just reference like a TV series that was very popular and so on. In our case at the BD School, for example, we do that in the emails. Very often on our emails, you find like a GIF and so on, which is with a reference to that. Again, we're mostly millennials in the company and Gen Zers, so we do like to throw that in. Then creating nostalgic themed webinars, events, like even in the, just, how to say, just in the style, you can use a little bit of a retro style. Like it doesn't have to be only about talking about, how it was and so the good old days, but it can also be just little elements here and there, that remind people of that. And by the way, with AI now, you can do all these things. There is one page in particular on Instagram that I follow. They always create these, houses with AI. And it's like, oh, living in Los Angeles in 1963, and then they show the house, how it would be. So again, AI, very great ally. And again, leveraging retro designs. Now, one thing is, if you want to use this trend, right? This is like one trend that you should not overuse. First of all, because you need to be really precise. You need to know your customers so well that you know exactly what are the pop references, the old references that they might get, right? Because otherwise you risk to alienate people, but you also risk to have, to make your brand look old, and you don't want that, right? So you want to be relevant. So sprinkle it here and there. Like, I don't know, you could do the Friday post. It can be a little bit more fun and more nostalgic, right? Once you write an email, like if you do some cold outreach, you can make some reference here and there. So don't overuse it. And most important, have a very good idea of your customers, your buyer persona, so that, you can be relevant to them. And the last prompt for you is, first of all, think about your audience, right? So really make sure that you know your audience, that you have in mind a few of your best customers, like really as people, how they are. And then try to think about some nostalgic elements that you could revive and make an experiment. Just try it out, and see, for example, in your conversations, in your posts, in your outreach, in your videos, if you do them, right? So try to see if it inspires at least a smile, on the other person. That means that it's, a little bit more open to towards you. All right, everyone. This was the last trend. Once again, for those of you watching here live and watching on YouTube, check out thebdschool.com if you want to advance your business development career. We provide many different courses that can help you improve your skills. So just feel free to check our website. For now, I will stop the recording. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you live, stay with us so we can go ahead with the Q&A section.